back to the VST channel, guys. This here is the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra and the OPPO Find X7 Ultra. Now, you might have seen the video title, and that's true. I'm gonna do a brutal CPU throttling test. Why brutal? Two reasons, guys. First, it's gonna be 1 hour, and if that's not brutal enough, I'm not going to use 20 threads, which is the default. I'm gonna use 100 threads. So let's see how this goes. The first thing I want to do is kill all the applications everywhere. And the second thing I want to do is I want to put the phones in airplane mode. All right, just to try to focus a bit on these nice SoCs. Now, I am reminding you, Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 as well in the OPPO Find X7 Ultra. It's time to measure some baseline temps. 27.9 for the S23 Ultra, 27.7 for the S24 Ultra, and 27.8 for the OPPO. With all of that said, I'm gonna go inside options and show you one of the reasons for having a brutal test. And this is it, 100 threads, guys. The standard number of threads is only 20, right? But when you put 100, yeah, the business gets different. Also, I'm gonna run the test for 60 minutes, guys. And I'm not going to display the CPU temperature because we know that this application is not been updated since 2018, so the readings are not so correct, but it is what it is. So now I'm gonna start it, okay? Start on the S23 Ultra, start on the S24 Ultra, and start it on the OPPO. I will also give you some temp measurements every 10-15 minutes, and at the end, guys, we will discuss the results. Now, you might think, why are we doing this? And I do believe I owe you this explanation, as this is very important. Now, this is a test, it's not a real application that you're gonna use like a game or say a social app. But what this test is doing, it uses GIPS or giga instructions per second over time to produce a heavy load for the phones. Now, what is also very important to understand it, if we have a graph like this that is very stable, close to 100%, it seems that the phone is able to really reach the peak performance. In that case, we can see that the S23 Ultra is calculating with 410 GIPS, the S24 Ultra is calculating with 459, and the OPPO Find X7 Ultra is calculating with the 465, which right now is a bit more than this and this. And what is interesting is over time, as this test continues, of course it produces heat, and we're going to start observing some drops. Now, these drops means that the phone starts to throttle the performance, allowing the phone to cool down a bit, right, and just being able to give you that power back. And this is a very big difference between the peak performance, which all phones start at the beginning, compared to the sustained performance, which means the performance over time that you're able to keep for yourself. And this is very important because if you start playing a game, you'll never play for like 5 minutes. If you, of course, are into that game, you'll play for maybe half an hour, 1 hour, maybe 4 hours. And the idea of the sustained performance is to give you this performance over proper usage of time. 30 minutes, 1 hour. Of course, it's unthinkable to even believe that you can use the phone and play 2 hours and still have the same performance. Not a lot of phones will deliver this. Why? Because this type of phones, right, the standard smartphones, they don't have the active cooling. Of course, there are some phones, like more gaming-oriented phones, that have even fans built in. And with a passive cooling system, you have to rely on some vapor chambers, some liquid metals and gels to really allow this heat to be dissipated. And of course, this is not so effective. And this is why if you take a laptop or you take a desktop computer, you'll have fans inside, right? Fans and very big pipes and radiators. Even if you take some nice PC gaming configuration, you know that they use also water to try to cool and nitrogen oxide, all kind of stuff. But it is what it is, guys. So we're starting strong on this test. Let's fast forward the time, and we're going to measure every 15 minutes the temperature to just see really what is happening with those phones. And if you like videos like this, well, you're more than welcome to help me by subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much, and let's keep watching. The first 10 minutes of the test has passed, guys, and I have some results. 43 for the OPPO, 39.6 for the S24 Ultra, and 41 for the S23 Ultra. Now, what we can see, guys, right now, this is, I think, a very interesting finding. It seems that the S24 Ultra is running cooler. Also, right, the graph itself doesn't look so nice, but hey, pay attention, guys. This is why it's very important to always refer to the performance. Even with this drop, right, the performance is, I would say, almost similar, like the A Gen 2 inside the S23 Ultra. So that's why I was saying, guys, don't only look to the graph, please also look at the readings, performance, the GIPS. And it's very important, of course, observe the average GIPS after the test. What we can see on the OPPO though is not so good, because at some point it was very stable, then boom, and now it's kind of limiting the performance to, I would say, below 80%. But still the performance, right, 61, 355, it's almost the same. So I would say right now that all phones are calculating with almost the same result, right? And it's impressive to see really what the S23 Ultra with the A Gen 2 is still able to pull off. This phone has been used actively every day for the last 13 months, guys. So it's not a brand new phone out of the box. By the way, I almost started with 1% battery from all of those phones. So it's also interesting to see the tear and wear on the battery. And now I'm going to fast forward, guys, and see what happens over time. The other interesting finding is that the S24 Ultra is also running cooler, and just to be 100% sure, we're gonna do one more reading. 40 here, all right. The S23 slightly higher with 42.2 and 42.1 on the OPPO Find X7 Ultra. So it seems that Samsung are doing something a bit different in the S24 Ultra. Right now I can already see that the performance is trying to even go lower, but it's still circling the same bandwidth. So let's see what happens next. 15 minutes since we started, guys, and we see that the S23 Ultra also started to struggle. Now, what are the temps? Well, 42.9 for the S23 Ultra. 40, again, almost 3 Celsius lower, guys, on the S24 Ultra, and a whooping 44.3 on the OPPO Find X7 Ultra. And by the way, guys, we can already tell, listen, when the S23 Ultra degrades the performance, or let's say starts to throttle to allow the phone to cool down a bit, we see that the performance is also really lost. You can just see the performance rate here on all 3 phones. Let's keep going. It's 20 minutes after we started the test, guys, and we can see that the S24 Ultra is even throttling more, limiting the performance to something below 70%. But pay attention, guys, the performance in GIPS is higher sometimes still than the S23 Ultra. Not in this particular example, but it was at least higher. So let's try to measure some temps, right? 44.3 for the OPPO. 40 for the S24 Ultra, and by the way, now the performance is actually less than the performance on the S23 Ultra, which has 42.7. So one very major key takeaway is that the S24 Ultra is able to run cooler. That's an interesting finding. I'm not sure, is it A Gen 3 related, because we see that the A Gen 3 is really running unhinged here with almost 44 Celsius even above. But it is what it is, guys. So yeah, this was I was talking about. 319, 251. So even with the throttling, the S24 Ultra is able to deliver circa the same performance, if not even better than the A Gen 2. But everything is going to be revealed at the end, so please keep watching. And again, if you want to help me, you know what to do. Thanks for the sub. Let's continue. We are now in the 22nd minute of a test, guys, and we can see that the OPPO is really struggling heavily with the performance even lower than 300 GIPS. 44.9, which is really the temperature of boiling for the OPPO. Only 40.7 for the S24 Ultra and 43.1. So at almost 45, we can see that the OPPO is almost trying to wave the white flag and surrender. We drop in the performance, and we can still see that the Samsungs are going strong, and even the S24 Ultra, with the performance limited to something like circa 70%, is able to give us a higher performance sometimes, all right, than what we see on the S23 Ultra. Very, very interesting results, guys. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and let's keep going. And now we reached the half of the test, 30 minutes guys. Let's start with the S24 Ultra, only 40 Celsius. This is really amazing what the S24 Ultra is doing. 43.6, so the OPPO, right, like after throttling to almost 62% of the performance, well, cooled down a bit. And the S23 Ultra running 43 Celsius. And in terms of performance, I think the OPPO really surrendered, waved the white flag. The S24 Ultra is going very strong, but will this be the end result? Let's keep watching. We're now approaching 40 minutes and some interesting findings. The OPPO Find X7 Ultra, after running for like 10-15 minutes with a lower performance, was able to regain a bit, and now you can see the performance is back on track, with even now delivering better performance compared to the S24 Ultra and the S23 Ultra. Let's measure some temps. 43.3, so the OPPO right now takes the first place in the temper performance. 40.5 and the S23 Ultra 42.7, so 40.5 on the S24 Ultra is very nice finding. The S23 Ultra now has lowest performance. Second place, the S24 Ultra, and the OPPO really able to regain a bit. So that's a nice finding. Let's keep watching and see what happens at the end. And the joy for the OPPO was short. 41, almost 42 minutes guys, and OPPO throttle again. Let's check the temperatures. 43.5 with 306 GIPS. The S24 Ultra, a rather steady graph guys, like steady declining, but a strong performance. I really hope that the S24 Ultra will come on top at the end with the average performance. 40 Celsius, this is amazing. And the S23 Ultra 43.4. Let's keep watching. "50 minutes in the test, so we only are left with the last 10 minutes guys. It's time for a final check before the end. 43.8 Celsius for the OPPO Find X7 Ultra, 40.3 for the S24 Ultra, and 42.9, so the S24 Ultra even never touched 41 degrees. In terms of performance, circa the same here, still the S24 Ultra with a bit more. And sadly, the OPPO, or at least what I see on the OPPO, is on the lower side on the GIPS. And let's see what we're gonna get at the end. Let's keep watching. We are only 1 minute away before the end of the test, so let me try to say some words guys. The whole idea about this test, and really what is behind is, over time, as our smartphones are getting heat under heavy workload, so their ability to handle the workload and the stress with the performance, right? If the line here is a straight line, so if the performance is linear, this means that they're really able to do well with workload, well with heavy duty stress, right? In case we have these drops, what it means really is that the phones are starting to throttle, which only means that they will reduce the clock speed, meaning that the CPU will start running at lower clock speed for the phone to be able to dissipate heat. And this is how those tests works. And by the way, we were able to prove this with measuring the OPPO. So when the OPPO was able to regain a bit, right, we were seeing these drop temps and the readings. 42.4, by the way, remember, it was using almost 45. Very nice result. 40.4 on the S24 Ultra and 43.2, so it's really impressive how the S24 Ultra was able to balance this. And by the way, test is over guys. Now the shocking result. All right, as I was really thinking, the winner is the S24 Ultra with an average performance of 389 GIPS, and the second phone only to come so close with 381, right, is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 inside the Galaxy S23 Ultra. And sadly guys, the OPPO Find X7 Ultra with the 8 Gen 3 earns the third place with 360 GIPS. Now something very interesting, the maximum value here guys, this is the peak performance, this is the raw performance. So what is very important is, and for some reason the OPPO has a strange value, I really cannot believe this, 491. The S24 Ultra was able to get 539 GIPS, which is really outstanding, versus 472 in the 8 Gen 2 in the S23 Ultra, and yep, 491. OPPO is taking the second place. So in terms of max or raw performance, the winner is the S24 Ultra. Then we have on the second place the OPPO Find X7 Ultra, which kind of makes sense, although I expected this to be a bit closer to the performance on the S24 Ultra. And then the third place is the S23 Ultra. Now let's check the minimum performance. And why does this matter? Well, this is the minimum performance when we were having these drops here. So the minimum performance on the S23 Ultra was 327 GIPS. The minimum performance on the S24 Ultra was 349. So this is very important. I'm going to explain why. And the minimum performance on the OPPO was 314. So why does this matter? It matters. I will explain. Even with the minimum performance, right, the Galaxy was still able to do better than the minimum performance compared to the S23 Ultra, and this resulted in a better average performance. Of course, not with a lot, right? We can just see it's only 8 more GIPS, but still it does matter. Now, again, I cannot really overstress this. The 8 Gen 2 is a legend. It's a true legend. It's here to stay, and all these tests, guys, demonstrated. I'm also completely not so dissatisfied with the S24 Ultra. I was expecting this. I think it's very stable, by the way. The way they manage the performance is nice. Why? Because remember, guys, I was running this for 1 hour and this phone barely touched 41 Celsius. This was going above 43, this was going above 44. So the way Samsung implemented stress management and heat management in the S24 Ultra with the 8 Gen 3, I think is something that I do like, because it means that when you play longer, some very graphically intensive games, it will not burn your fingers, and you still are gonna get a good performance, because we see that the average is slightly more than the S23 Ultra. Okay, not slightly more, but just a bit. And sadly, I'm a bit disappointed with the OPPO Find X7 Ultra. It started strong, then I said, okay, it maybe will just remain here. Then it had a drop, then it tried to recover. So it seems that the whole management is not so consistent. I'm not sure what they're doing there, but it's not something that I like. I do like an even hour graph like we have on the S24 Ultra. So I really hope that you enjoy videos like this, guys. If that's the case, hit the like and subscribe button. Those videos take a lot of time to be made, and also, of course, you're wearing your phones out, so don't do this at home. 60 minutes with 100 threads. Leave this to us, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for the sub. VST over, and bye.